Everyone, this is Rahul Malhotra from SFDC Stop, and in this video, we are going to learn that how we can connect our own Salesforce project to GitHub. Right? So GitHub is nothing but a service provider, I can say, which allows you to share your code among multiple contributors, and it is based on the Git platform. So we are going to see how we can actually upload our whole Salesforce project among all the configurations and all the classes, everything to GitHub. And we are going to create a new GitHub repository here, and we are going to push our code to GitHub by adding a commit, right? So what I did, I just created a new scratch.org and I actually installed my Apex. Actually, I installed my HTTP callout framework in this scratch.org so that I have some of the code because by default a scratch.org is an empty org. So I just added some of the Apex classes, some of the layouts, and everything that is a part of HTTP callout framework to my org, right? And I connected a new I actually created a new VS Code project and I connected it with my scratch.org and I take a pull due to which I have some of the Apex classes in my VS Code now, and I also have some of the custom metadata, layouts, validation rules, objects, and all that stuff, right? So I'm going to just initialize a new GitHub Git repository in here, and I'm going to push everything to my new GitHub repository that I'm going to create very soon. So let's begin. So the first thing that we need to do is to initialize the Git, right? So to initialize the Git, you just need to move on to the third icon here, which says source control, and here you will see you have a button which says initialize repository. So you just need to click on this button, and it will automatically initialize the repository for you. So if I just show you the output of Git here, if we can see, yeah, there are a lot of commands, but yeah, I can tell you in other words, if you want to initialize the Git repository using command, you can just use git init and it will automatically initialize a repository for you. So the command to initialize the repository is git init, in case you don't want to do it using the UI, but you can just click on that button, it will automatically initialize, right? So what it is showing me right now is that these all the files that are a part of my project, they are not being added to Git right now. So what I need to do, I need to just add them to my Git so that it can be tracked by my version control. So just to give you an overview, Git is a version control system which actually tracks all the files and all the changes that you are doing in each and every file. So what it does, it tracks all the changes that you are doing, okay, or anyone is doing who is connected to this particular GitHub repository, right? So what I did, I just initialized Git and I told my version control system that hey, now you have to track all the changes that I'm going to do in this particular folder or in this particular project folder, right? So it is tracking everything and it is showing me right now that hey Rahul, you haven't done any of the things yet, and you have around 44 new files that you should stage or commit. So before committing, what we need to do, we actually need to stage all the changes. So staging is something which you can say that hey, I am done with my changes, and now I can stage all the changes, and I mean these are the files on which I have stopped working, and now these all files are ready to be committed. So staging is something, when I say that I am staging my changes, this means that the files are ready to be committed, right? And if something is unstaged, then this means that I still need to do some changes, right? So whenever you want to commit or something, committing is something like if I talk about commit, it's something like I'm fixing or finalizing the changes that I have done. So before committing, what is the prerequisite for it? And whenever you want to add a commit, prerequisite requisite for commit is to stage the changes. So let's say I am doing some of the changes, and then I realize that okay, these 5 files are something that I can commit, right? So I first need to stage all those files, and then I need to add a commit. You can also unstage the changes if you want to do, like if you see here, I have an option to unstage all the changes. So if you click on this, it will automatically unstage all the changes. So now you can see that I have all the files in the changes under the changes heading. So this means that I don't have any kind of files that are staged. I can also manually stage some of the files. Let's say I just want to stage these 2 files. So I can click on the plus icon over here, and I can manually stage some of the files that are ready to be committed, right? So like you can see here that whenever I'm adding a plus icon, I'm clicking on the plus icon, manually the files are being staged, and all the other files are unstaged. So we'll see that how we can actually push our stage changes after committing to our GitHub repository. So right now I'm going to stage all the changes. So this is I think most preferred thing whenever you are creating a new VS Code project, or you are starting with a new Salesforce project, or even if you have an old project. Like here, I'm taking a scenario where I have an old project, but now is the time that I'm taking it to Git for the first time, right? So whenever you are first time taking something to Git, or taking or moving, I should say, moving a project to Git, you need to stage everything. So whenever you're doing this, just stage everything and add an initial commit, so that after this initial commit, your each and every change will be tracked automatically, right? So I'm going to stage everything. I have staged everything here, and I'm going to add a commit. So just to add a commit, what you need to do, you need to specify a commit message. So you can specify the commit message here, and you can add a commit. So let's say my commit message for this commit is initial commit, right? And I'm going to click this icon which says commit. So this is a right tick over here. If you click on this tick, your first commit will be done. So I'm just going to click on this, and here you can see that my changes are now 0 because I have committed, or I have done my first commit. So how I can see that whatever I have committed, I can just go to my terminal, and I can actually execute the command which says git log. So whenever you are executing the command which is git log, you will see that you have a commit which says initial commit over here, right? So this is how, I mean, you can actually uh, perform a initial commit. And now our next task is to push these changes to our GitHub repository. So I have added just one commit into my repository, and now I can push these changes to my GitHub. So let's say I actually, I want to take my project to version control system. So for this, I actually initialize a new GitHub repository, and I added a commit, and now I'm ready to take it to GitHub or something like that, right? But let's say I just realized that I need to do one more change, and I forgot to do that. So I just want to show you that even if you do a very simple change, like let's say I just removed this opening brace over there, and I am saving my file, right? So as I'm saving my file, you can see here that it's being tracked by Git. So now you can see that in the changes folder, I have one file which I just changed, and if I click on this, it will automatically show me that hey, this is the change that you have performed, right? So this is the old change that I have, and this is the new change. So in the old change, I had a semicolon. Sorry, I had an opening brace over here, and in my new code, I don't have an opening brace over here. So this is how the changes are being tracked by Git, right? So for now, just leave everything as it is, and I'm going to create a new GitHub repository and push all my code to my GitHub repository. So you can see here that as I reverted my changes back, the changes part is empty now, right? So let's create a new GitHub repository, and let's push all our code to the GitHub repository, right? So to create a new GitHub repository, you should have an account on GitHub first. You can use GitHub, Bitbucket, GitLab, anything that you like. So you just need to have an account on GitHub. So I'm actually going through the things by considering GitHub here. So whenever you are on the home page, or you are on any page, you can either initialize a new GitHub repository from here. Otherwise, if you are on the home page, you can initialize a new GitHub repository by clicking the new button here. Okay. So I'm choosing this. Let's create a new repository. And when you click on new repository, you will be taken to a new page where it will ask you that what is the name of your repository, right? Okay, so here you can see that we need to add a new name of our repository. So let's say I'm adding my repository name as let's say CI CICD tutorial or something like that, right? So my repository name is CICD tutorial, and you can also add a description for your repository. So description can be anything like this is the repository for CI CD tutorial in SFDC stop or something like that, right? You can choose your repository to be public or private. So if your repository is public, anyone can access that. Like if you know and if you have gone through my previous tutorial, I every time I share a repository with you. Let's see, for platform event toast, I have a repository. For HTTP callout framework, I have a repository. So all these are public repositories because anyone can see them, anyone can have a look at the code, and anyone can add a pull request and clone that repository, right? So if you choose it to be private, then it's only visible to you and it's visible to no one else, right? And you can explicitly share it with some persons, but if you choose it to be private, it's only visible to you. So I'm just going to create a public repository for this. And you can also initialize your repository with a readme, but I won't suggest you to initialize this repository with a readme, because we are going to add everything into our repository from our VS Code. So if you see that our new Salesforce project already has a README over there. So there is already a README file which Salesforce provides us when we initialize a new Salesforce project using VS Code. So we don't need to initialize a README, and we can also add a license and get ignore. So these are all good stuff that we don't need to get into right now. So you just need to add a repository name, add a description if you want to, choose public or private, and then click on create repository. So I'm going to create a repository and let's see how it goes. So yeah, so my new repository is created, and by default the repository name is ci-cd-tutorial. So I mean, these hyphens are automatically added by GitHub, because you should not have any space or something like that in the GitHub repository, because we need to use this link, right? So what we need to do now, we need to push all our code into our ci-cd tutorial repository that is just created, right? So I have already added one commit into my code, and now I'm ready to push it, right? So before pushing, the one thing that I need to do is that I need to tell VS Code, or I need to tell my local Git that, hey, you need to push all this code to this particular GitHub repository, right? So for this, what I need to do, I just need to click on this button, and or I can manually just copy this URL, which is my endpoint URL for GitHub repository. So I can just click on this, or I can manually copy this. It's up to you. And once you have copied this, what you need to do, you just need to follow the instructions which is saying push an existing repository from the command line. So for this, it is already telling you what are the instructions that you need to push. Otherwise, I'm going to tell you how you can push it, right? So let's go to our terminal, and I have already added a commit. So my next thing that I need to do is to add a remote, or to set a remote, right? Because let's say this is my local repository repository which is in the VS Code, and I'm going to push this to my GitHub repository, right? Repository which is on the GitHub server. So this is the repository that is in my VS Code. I call it local, and this repository which is on GitHub, I call it remote, right? So what I need to do now, I need to push my changes. I need to push changes from local to remote. And to push my changes from local to remote, I first need to specify that what is my remote server, right? So the command to specify your remote server is this, which says git remote add origin and then the URL of my remote repository, which is shown here, this URL, right? So I'm just going to copy this and I'm going to paste this command here. So you see here that as I pasted this command git remote add origin and this, it automatically actually set my remote for this local folder, which has the git initialized, right? I can check out what is my remote URL by executing the command git remote and then -v. So it will automatically show me that hey, your remote URL is with the name origin, and the remote URL is this, which is automatically set for you, right? So you can set your remote URL by using the git remote add command. So git remote add and then is the name of your remote URL or the alias for that. By default, I mean everyone prefers it to be origin. So the origin is the best thing, the best alias that you can use. And then you have to specify the URL of your origin as the command line parameter. So once you have executed this command, your remote will automatically be set, and you can now see that your remote is set. Now, my remote is set, but I haven't pushed any changes, right? So I can check out the status, which is right now, along with my remote, right? So if I just execute git status, it will tell me what is the status. So right now I'm on my branch master. So you can check out from the lower side of your VS Code that what are the different branches that you have created. So right now, by default, only one branch is there, which is branch master, and nothing is there to commit because I don't have any specific changes and everything is clean, right? So I can directly push all my changes to my GitHub repository. So to push, what you need to do, you just need to execute the command which says git push. So let's execute git push and let's see what happens. So it is actually saying me that the current branch master has no upstream branch. To push the current branch and set the remote as upstream, use this command, right? So what is meant by upstream branch here? Let's say you have a local repository and you have a remote repository, right? Let's say you can have different branches. I mean, a repository tree is like a tree in which you can have multiple branches, right? Because you, let's say you have 10 developers working on the same repository, so they can work on their own branches, right? And later on you can merge those branches. So branches is nothing but something that you can merge later on. So let's say you have one branch which is coming out of here in your tree, let's say from here, and then you have another branch which is coming out of this branch or something like that. So you can say that this is my branch master and this is my branch A, and from my branch A, my another branch is coming, which is branch B or something like that. Later on, you can actually merge this with master and do it like that, right? So we'll see all this in the future tutorials. For now, we got to know that what Git is saying to me is that you have your master branch here in your local repository, and you also need to have some master branch or something like that in your remote repository so that these two branches can be linked to each other, right? So you need to have something like master over the remote also, so that you can link both the branches, and whenever you are actually executing a push command, git knows that hey, you need to push this master to remote master or something like that, right? So what I need to do, I need to execute just this command which says git push hyphen hyphen set hyphen upstream origin master. And the same command is also given in shortcut here, git push hyphen u origin master. So I can also use that or I can use this one, right? So let's say I use the one that is provided by GitHub, which says git push hyphen u origin master, and I press enter. So let's see if our code is pushed. Okay, so it is asking me for my GitHub username. So I'm just going to add my username here, and it is asking me for my password. So I'm going to add my password. And you can see here it is writing the objects and it is pushing everything to my GitHub repository. Okay, so just give it a second. Okay, so we can see now that our branch master is set up to track remote branch master from origin, and my local master is actually linked to my remote master branch, right? So let's go to our repository again, and I'm going to refresh this page, and we'll see if our code is pushed or not. Okay, so now I can see that all of my code is pushed and my README file is automatically there, which is created by Salesforce. And I can also see if my Apex classes are there or not, right? So let's click on this Force app main default folder and the classes folder, and let's see if my classes are there or not. So you can see here that all the classes are there, which I created and are in my VS Code, and they are automatically pushed to the GitHub repository, right? Okay, so the one thing to notice in there is that you can see that I have a number of folders here, right? Like I have tabs folder, I have static resources folder, I have remote site settings folder, I have profiles folder, I have permission sets folder, and a number of folders are there. But if you check out your GitHub repository, you can ask me one question that, hey Rahul, if I check out my fourth app main default folder, I don't have my permission set folders over there, and I also don't have my tabs folder, my static resources folder over there. So why are these folders not coming into my Git? So just to tell you about that, our Git by default don't track any empty folders, right? So if you have any empty folders or if you don't have any data in your folders, it won't be tracked by Git by default. So all these folders that are empty, like permission sets, static resources, tabs, they're not by default tracked. And all those folders which even have one file, like if you see remote site settings, I just have a single file over there, so it is being tracked by your GitHub repository, right? So it is being tracked by Git and it is being pushed. So the next question that may come in your mind, that do we have to again and again use this command to push our changes? So I would say no, because this is only for the first time when you don't have a remote setup for your GitHub repository, right? Because now my local and my remote are in sync, and I have my remote setup for my GitHub repository. So let's say if I do even a single change. Let's say what change can I do right now? Let's say I just add one single change, and I update my last updated date from 7 to, let's say, 24 and April, let's say it's 2020, right? And I'm going to save this file, and it is automatically pushing to my scratch log, so that my scratch log and my git are in sync, right? So if I go to my source control over here and I click on the changes, I can see that my whole file is same, but only a single change is there in which I updated the date, right? So let's say I want to push this change to my GitHub repository where I have updated the date, right? And I don't want to do anything else. I just want to push this single change. So I can just stage this first of all. Again, the same things. I need to add a commit. So let's say I'm adding a commit as updated date in HTTP callout async service class, and I'm going to commit this. And now to push, I don't need to go to my terminal. I can directly choose this more actions option over here, and I can choose the push command. So what it will do, it will automatically push to my repositories branch, which is connected to my local master branch. So now my local master branch is automatically connected to my remote master branch that I did for the first time. So I can directly push it from here. So it is asking for my username. I'm just going to add that. And it is asking for my password. I'm going to add this as well. And you can see here that it is pushing one change from my remote to my local. So you can see here it is synchronizing the changes. So now all the synchronizing is done, and I can directly refresh my repository on GitHub, and I can check if that change is there or not. So I have added actually 2 commits into my repository, and let's see if that change has come here or not. So now you can see I have 2 commits over here where I had only 1 commit, and my latest commit is updated date in HTTP callout async service. So I can also, check out any 1 commit and check out what are the changes that I did in that particular commit. So if I check out this particular commit, I just updated one file, and in that file also I just updated the date, right? Whereas if I check out my initial commit, I can see all the changes that I did. So in the initial commit, I added a lot of files, and these files didn't have any previous history because they all are new files, and I added a lot of new files in the initial commit, right? And even if I go to my GitHub repositories homepage, I can check out that all these folders or files are related to initial commit. However, in this particular folder, I added a new commit. So if I go to this folder, I can again see that only in classes folder I added a new commit. However, all the other folders are having initial commit only. And if I again go to the classes folder, I can check out that only this, but in this particular class I added a new commit, and all the other classes are the same, right? So I can check out, and I can even see the time, like 3 minutes ago I added this commit, and 20 minutes ago I added another commit or something like that. So everything is being tracked. All the changes that you are doing in your scratch org, you can pull that, or even developer org, you can pull that in your VS code, and you can push that into your GitHub repository one by one. So this is how, I mean, we can connect our Salesforce to our GitHub repository. The only thing that I want to tell you right now is that I expected here that you have installed Git in your system, right? So installed Git in your system. So this is something that I pre-assumed that you have installed Git in your system, because you can only execute the Git commands when you have Git installed in your system, right? So in case you haven't installed Git in your system, you can just go to the git-scm.com/downloads. I'll give the link in the description, and you can just download Git for your own system, and you can, I mean, there are very simple commands to install the Git. And in case you want me to actually add another video or installing it, and installing it, because I have told you everything related to Git here. So in case you want another video to install the Git, just let me know in the comments down below. In the next video, we'll see how we can actually pull a project that is there in the GitHub repository, and we can set up a new scratch jog for that existing project that is there in the on the GitHub or Bitbucket or something like that. So till then, have a good day. Bye bye.